Hey guys, welcome back to the Guild of the Eternal Flame OC tournament. I'm your host, Professor Ozpin, and with me I have my co-host, Cadderly Adderly, Fate Awakener, and Daisy. Everyone say hi.
Hello there, I'm Cadderly, one of two people on the music team here.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Fate's Awakener. I'm the scriptwriter.
Hello there, I am Daisy, and I help with visuals of each character.
Before we move on, I would like to announce the winning team from the last match against Team Dawn versus Galaxy. The winner was Team Galaxy, and moving on from Team Galaxy is Blossom Young Albert Galaxy. Congratulations, you two. They did win by an 11% margin.
Team Dawn should have won, and that is the hill I will die on.
I know Noble was expecting something different, but the people have voted.
But anyways, we have our next fight, which is Team S.T.E.L versus Team K.A.S.H. Let's get into it. The biome they're fighting on is the mountain and forest, which we saw Team Juniper versus Team Bronze. So starting with Team S.T.E.L, we have Sotz Ferrand, the leader based off the Bat God. He is an 18-year-old based on the Kamazat, the Maya Underworld Bat God, with some White Fang history and a pair of bat ears on his head as his finest trait. So, right off the bat, He is also listed here to have enhanced hearing, which can probably be used in a technique similar to bat echolocation, but that also means that he may be able to pick out hidden or even invisible targets. But that will be a problem in the long run.
That's right. The mountain biome has lightning and thunder going off all the time, so while his sensitive ears aren't covered by the hat he wears, that's going to cause him some pain. So he's probably going to want to stick to the forest half of the playground, which would actually play into his semblance. Phantoms. This semblance lets him create ethereal arrows out of his aura and rain them on enemies. Mostly for a scare tactic, really, but if you can summon them to come in from multiple directions, it's going to be useful for confusing his enemies as well.
The semblance is definitely a very interesting idea, and I see that the only issue that it could possibly have is if the fight is drawn out, since usually in RWBY, semblances that create something or summon an illusion have a specific thing that triggers it, whether it be a motion that someone has to do or a sound that plays, such as when Emerald's illusions are active. In the long run, this would definitely be a possibility that people could just see through it and it wouldn't work, which would definitely be a problem since it takes a lot of aura to use this semblance.
So basically a volley of arrows that make you want to scream for mommy. But let's take a look at his weapon now. Tankin and Skimit are daggers that can become a bow, but I mean, look at the size of that thing. It's huge. Let's take a breakdown look. So at first glance, you can see it's bigger than him in the first place. But I mean, if he swung it in its bow form, you sort of got a male Vela from Team Silver. And basically, with the pair of daggers on the hilt attached to extend to form the arms of the bow, the arrows are infused with wind dust, which we really haven't seen except for Merc's boots. So I can't say for sure that they would explode on impact or not. We haven't seen much of that.
Now, if we take a look at his fighting style, apparently Sotz is a bit of a slouch on melee combat and prefers to keep his distance and just fire the bow, especially if it's from a good cover. He's really primarily supportive, like providing cover fire and fights in close quarter only as a last resort, which does make sense for someone who uses daggers.
But even in close combat, with the help of his teammates, he'll be very vulnerable.
Okay, so moving on to the second team member, we have Taylor How do you say this? Crepusculum, thank you. And he alludes to the grim fairy tale, The Valiant Little Tailor, so you know it's a hell of a story. Looking at his semblance charisma, which just makes him persuasive or intimidating, it isn't really combat-oriented. In a fight, if you're determined to actually do your job, take down your enemy, take out whatever's bothering the village, etc., there isn't really going to be anything that's going to stop you from doing that. Vocal intimidation and visual intimidation are two different things. Sounding intimidating is useless if you don't look it. Judging by his height and weight, he should have a rounder body type. So even if he has like a six-pack under his clothes and he's a wrestler, an amazing fighter, you're not gonna look intimidating. The only way I can see his semblance working in his favor is if he goes into the forest biome among the trees, then uses his charisma. Sounding intimidating without being seen has a very good effect on people. But outside of that, since he's being very, very useful, especially with the that thing that he calls a weapon.
Which brings us to his weapon, which is, well, a giant fly swatter. I mean, there's not much you can really add about that. Sure, it's got a flamethrower mode and fire dust compatibilities in melee form too, but it's a fly swatter.
A fly swatter weapon? It's really a funny idea. I would say RIP to any bug faunus that happens to look at him the wrong way. Joking aside, however, I do love how this idea could work, since unorthodox weapons are very interesting in the show, as seen with, like, Clover's fishing rod and other things. Still, though, it's kind of impractical with how it could work, unless it could work like a tennis racket, which I don't think it would.
Now, moving on to his fighting style, I think that slapping the enemy isn't quite as useful as a flamethrower, but apparently Talon prefers to use it in fly swatter mode, which is an unorthodox choice, I guess. All you gotta do is avoid taking damage from it just to get in range, so...
But it catches on fire, right? A giant flaming square coming at you is going to play into his intimidation, which Daisy brought up beforehand.
But I would like to know, is he gonna be talking to his opponents while they're fighting, though? Plus, well, I can see it playing a part if, say, he's hiding and jumps at you from a cover. The surprise factor is considerably scary because it's a big-ass fly swatter. But when you're fighting him in the open, I can't stress this enough. I mean, when you're in close range with this guy, you're basically toast without the butter.
Why are you like this?
I don't know, but he's going to be using the flamethrower mode a lot then. Like, if he wants to win this, he'll definitely require the support of his teammates. And speaking of those teammates, we can look at the third member who's probably weirder than the last. Let's look at Elifie Arantos, a dear faunus from Menagerie, and it seems like she's fighting for a different reason. Going through the change of being in the White Fang, she has been all over the place, which means that being all over the place, she has experience fighting in many different types of terrains, which she got going nice for her. Her semblance, though, is the really interesting part here. Playing to her illusion of the cow that jumped over the moon from that one nursery rhyme, her semblance is called floaty. It's active constantly and basically makes her behave like she's under lunar gravity, which is a measly 6 of the gravity on Earth, and I assume the gravity on Remnant as well. We're not sure. Now, this does give her a boost in mobility in that she is able to jump very high and far, but what most people neglect to realize is that under weaker gravity, you have lower traction and with the ground, and thus all your movements are clumsier, and your steps propel you forwards less, which I could see as a difficult on the main field.
While it would say that a normal person would be very clumsy in a low gravity situation, Elifie has had about 5 years to figure out how her gravity works, so she's probably learned a few tricks to mitigate what sluggishness comes with her lunar gravity. Since she effectively weighs less than a normal person, but has the same amount of surface area as a normal person, the atmosphere probably has more of an effect on her than it does normal people. Elifie's behavior in lower gravity could be compared to swimming in water. Since water has a higher density than air, a person could wave their arm through it and push off against it, allowing them to swim. While this wouldn't completely work with Elifie because the air is so much less dense than water, and she's not exactly going 0G, her lower gravity would make the air have more of an effect on her movement, so she could do things like adjust her trajectory mid-jump. And to help with that changing direction in midair, we should look at her weapons of Amorphia and Milo, a set of dust-infused fans. One was wind and the other was fire dust. She also wears a set of rollerblades infused with gravity dust, allowing her to drop down on enemies from on high when activating them mid-jump. The gravity dust is also used to keep her grounded when she doesn't want to be under the effect of her semblance and instead roll around the battlefield quickly, Neon Cat style.
So these fans are bladed on the edges, obviously. If you've seen Avatar, you should know that it looks something similar to the Kyoshi warriors when it comes to fighting. With the addition of dust, she also has rather insane range abilities, launching wide wave attacks and spinning around to summon something like an actual firestorm, raining hellfire. This means that she should be able to cover a huge area with her fire attacks. Very useful, but also very dangerous to her team. So she would most likely use these sparingly so as to not, 1, injure her team, 2, take away any cover that they might have, possibly. I'm sure if she gets desperate enough, she might.
So, we can agree that with Talon's flamethrower and these fans of Elifie's, by the end of this fight, the forest half of this arena is utterly gone, right?
Yeah, basically.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's going to be smoking.
Stop.
Now, looking at the last member of Team S.T.E.L is our girl Lucine Alice, or Lissy for short. Another faunus on the field, and she is actually a dog faunus because of her tail wagging. Actually, it's exciting to fight. And here she comes on the field. I'm assuming that she must have at least dark vision, like many mammalian faunus do, if not also enhanced smell. And I guess speaking of eyesight, she has herself assembled, which is pretty much identical to the one we see introduced in the new novel Before the Dawn, paralysis, allowing her, well, paralyze anyone with whom she makes direct eye contact with, which I think is cool. But there is the drawback. The drawback is that it causes her considerable mental fatigue, and it can't be used multiple targets at once without falling unconscious as a result. So she really has to be really careful how she uses it, because she also can't use it. The target's eyes are obscured by, say, like sunglasses or anything that she can't see. And it also looks like that it only will work if she's personally angry. So her playful and friendly personality isn't going to allow a lot of that.
Overall, this does seem like a pretty solid team, if not a little weak, but at least it's balanced with each other. But now with all that out of the way, let's take a look at her weapon, K.A.S.H. Sorry to butcher that name if I did.
So, K.A.S.H is a long sword with a sniper rifle barrel along the blade, and she's very skilled at your standard sword play, swing, thrust, parries. She fights poorly in close quarters, with the rifle shots used primarily to boost her attacks with recoil, but in a bind, if she's under a lot of pressure, she will snipe at opponents while retreating with the shots, propelling her forwards much like Ruby with her scythe. You see that in the Volume 4 when they're going against the Rock Gigas. But I mean, overall, I can say that looking at this team S.T.E.L, I can say they are a really fun team. I think they're going to do excellent in the battlefield. But up next, we will take a look at Team K.A.S.H and how they fare off in this battle after the commercial break. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And we hope you all love that commercial break. More to come in the later fights, but let's get a roll on Team K.A.S.H. Ka-ching. Starting off all the way from Vacchio, we have Dalina Kahal, who is an excellent fighter, but let's see how she handles the field. Kat, take it away.
Well, before that, I think we should mention that within the lore of the character, Dalina is dead. However, for this fight, we'll be acting as if she wasn't, and the full team is there, just to avoid unfair numbers.
That's true, Daisy. But anyways, starting off, let's take a look at her semblance, Unity. And a sort of inverse of Sienna's semblance, Grudge. Unity makes Dalina stronger when those around her have full aura, weakening her strength as the aura levels around her decrease.
That's right. So as long as she is not knocked out or attacked, she should be well versatile on the field, especially if she uses her skills and intellect to fight off Team S.T.E.L. Let's take a look at her weapon, which in this case is a book. So she is a bookworm.
God damn it, Oz.
Her weapon consists of a large book with a detailed medieval design on both covers. The outer jacket is reinforced with a metal plating, and the spine contains a metal rod that can be extended out to form a conduit for lightning dust, which is housed in the small compartment at the base of the spine. So basically, to sum it up, it's a functional weapon, and it's basically Nolan's Cataprod in a book. The book also contains lessons on leadership set in a form of narrative about an aged king, which I really don't see playing a part in this fight, honestly. I guess I can say for all of us, she is a really powerful bookworm. I was right.
Oz, I will hit you.
Now, with all the book jokes in the world, best she could do is slap somebody with it and do damage, but then she's defenseless anyways. But moving on to her fighting style, she seems to me more like it goes into detail why the book's a book and not some badass fly swatter. I mean, who do you think would win? A book or a giant smacker? Please put down in the comments below what you guys would think would win. A flat swatter or a book?
And yeah, as Oz said, her fighting style goes more in depth to the purposes of the book. Using the book as a bludgeoning weapon or extending the rod could definitely work to give an extra shock to the opponent. Though the main use of it is to keep distance and direct things to help and funnel towards her teammate. Using the lessons in the book as a basis for her tactics, with careful strategy and consideration of the battle, she attempts to keep her teammates in positions where they will take little damage and keeping Dalina at full strength, at least for as long as possible.
Yep, all in a good day's fight, but seeing how her second teammate is coming to support her, let's break him down.
Alright, so the next team member in Team K.A.S.H. is Azir Ride, a character inspired by the Transformers and Maximum Ride series, and as you can see, those characteristics in his Black Hawk style wings, which are, well, I don't know if they're cool, I've never seen it.
That's right, our first bird faunus of the tournament, and wow, he can fly. Though with that wingspan of 14 feet, it makes him quite a large target if he does decide to take flight, which could play a risk.
Which could be a major factor with his fighting style, but first we should take a look at his weapon, Crankshaft. A high-powered 8-shot pistol with a fold-out bayonet attached to the bottom of the grip, with a dust enhancement device attached to allow dust-infused rounds without the need for dust bullets, simply a crystal of the desired dust type.
But don't forget, a mini pistol can't do crap with 8 barrels. That's basically a minigun, I think.
8 means 8 shots before needing to reload the clip, dumbass.
Meh. Well, I use a cane, so sorry.
Oz's mistake aside, I am intrigued as to how this weapon and semblance would work together. His semblance, hyper mode, allows him to greatly increase his offensive and defensive capabilities, and could, well, as a risk, also has big aura drains, so it's possibly a double-edged sword. It seems a little counterintuitive with the leader semblance, but I can imagine it working in dire situations.
That's right, Fates. Looking at his fighting style, we can see why. Azure prefers to fly above the competition, having very fast, skirmish-type fighting style, with fast dives on the opponent before getting out of range, using gravity dust to push himself faster than he would normally be able to fly, or to add some extra oomph behind some of his bayonet attacks. He only uses his semblance when absolutely necessary, thus preserving his aura to keep the leader boosted.
Well, with that, let's move on to the third member of Team K.A.S.H. We have Silence Copice, who's living up to his name and does not speak. So that means he doesn't speak like a particular ice cream colored individual we all know and love. But Neo aside, we should take a look of his semblance, That's called shade.
With it consuming a constant flow of aura, Silence is able to conjure sort of a clone that works independently from himself, kind of like Sun and Blake, I'd assume. This shade is really only good at attacking if he doesn't keep the emotions in check. The shade could start attacking anyone and not just the enemy that Silence wants it to attack.
That's true, Fate, but if he can keep his emotions in check, his semblance could be a powerful combo with his weapon of Morning Glory. A crossbow that can turn into a Morning Star. With the crossbow handling long range and the semblance working in close range, it could easily add a fifth member to the team.
But even with the shade, if it's really sunny, it will die.
I'm going to hurt someone if there's another stupid joke.
Okay, fine, by me. We're all shady in some way, eh?
Oz, you are on thin ice.
Jokes aside, this looks like a really strong and important teammate and could potentially give the team a pretty big advantage.
Yes, but we do have to keep in mind that the shade must stay within relatively close proximity to Silence, so depending on how far it can go, it could either be very strong or very limited, especially if they're separated.
Kind of like Shikamaru from Naruto with his Shadow Jutsu. But I do believe that the biggest downfall in this particular character can be found in part of his fighting style. Based on his document, Silence relies quite a lot on his semblance to do the fighting for him. But that is not the biggest thing here. Silence barely uses any dust in his weapons, leaving that to his teammate, which could really be a downside without the various elemental effects used by dust.
I don't know, Oz. I feel like aura drain from his semblance could be a major issue, with it constantly weakening the power of the leader's unity semblance, as well as this is an aura break fight.
I mean, that is a fair point, Cad, but let's look at this last member. Maybe they could be a major player here. Up next, we have Ham or Shay. Ham. Was not expecting a character to be named Ham, but anyways. Auntie, would you like to break down this semblance?
Sure thing, Oz. Ham's semblance is called Balance, a passive semblance that allows the user to have incredible balance and allows him to fight much better than most on unsteady or various other treacherous terrains.
That could be a pretty useful semblance in some situations. However, with this particular biome setup, I don't think it will play much of a factor.
Which his weapon pewter arm could help with. A shotgun combo that can use dust bullets, though he prefers to use normal shells. By doing things like shooting the ground in the mountain biome with dust shells, he could probably create things like rock sides or ground that could easily be broken, or just uneven ground.
Similar to Yang when she wants to cause actual collateral damage, though to connect with the fighting style, it might be hard to get enough time for that. Ham is a frontline fighter, getting up close and personal with their weapon to hit the opponent, so they are a defensive fighter, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike back against the target. This could lead to not having many chances to create environmental hazards and difficulty for the opponent.
But with that being said, that's very true. And with that, we have covered both Team S.T.E.L and Team K.A.S.H. We have a short commercial break, and when we get back, we will go over our thoughts on the match on who we think will win. And we're back from commercial break. We will be going through each of our ideas on how we think the fight will go and who we think will win. Want to start us off, Kat?
All right. In my own personal opinion, both teams have their odd choices when it comes to weapons. Fly swatter. It would definitely be an interesting fight to see animated. I would have to say that I would put my money on Team K.A.S.H in this case. While not all of their semblances would be the most useful at all times, I feel like overall Team K.A.S.H would have more. I feel like they would have more advantages. Yes, Team S.T.E.L has the terrain advantage in the forest, what with being from Vale and Beacon Academy. However, the flamethrower and firestorms will be creating quite a lot of destruction in that area. But however, Team K.A.S.H just seems to be a team which
More versatile abilities.
Yeah, that makes that's I'd say yeah, it's more versatile. What with as long as the leader can keep her team organized and in a situation benefiting them, they essentially would have the upper hand in most situations. What with unity boosting the strength of the leader and the leader directing her team to stay out of harm's way. Now, one thing I can see as being a potential downside would be some of these semblances, such as Azure's hyper mode being a major aura drain, and Silence's reliance on his semblance could be a downside. I feel like as long as they are playing to the best of their abilities, Team K.A.S.H has essentially a potential 5 members on their team, as well as the aerial advantage over Team S.T.E.L.
I would also agree that I feel that K.A.S.H is a little bit more versatile, especially since it seems that the leader is better with coordination, which could matter, especially in a place that has a mountainous terrain. So, if anything, the entire idea of they get the high ground, it might be difficult for S.T.E.L if K.A.S.H does get it, but I feel that K.A.S.H would have a better chance if the chances were reversed. So they're better at adapting. I'd say that. But S.T.E.L, I feel, is really good when it comes to overall abilities, but I'd say that that's its own butting heads kind of thing. I feel that they're pretty even otherwise.
Well, I want to take thanks to you guys. Please hit that like button down below if you haven't subscribed. Click that bell icon. You know, it always helps the tournament. We do now have a Patreon link. Link would be down in the description below. And don't forget to go vote. Voting is going to be the first link in the descriptions. Make sure that when you vote for a team, you only vote for 2 members from that team and not anyone else, or your vote will be void. And yeah, thanks for making it all the way to the end, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!
Inside. Move your body non-stop, take a breath and fill the glass up and raise your hands up. It's time to blink and wink to the girl with the glamorous things. Go on, this shit will sing. We feel like nightclub kings. We feel like nightclub kings. feel the push inside. Move your body non-stop, take a breath and fill your glass up and raise your hands up. It's time to blink and wink to the girl with the glamorous things. Go on, this shit won't sink. We feel like nightclub kings.